Until recently, nobody knew what PTSD was.
Lord, I need you to heal him.
I'm done.
How does it feel?
It's a little scary.
I have very graphic dreams. Sometimes I think it's God talking to me. Dreams are important. They can give us a window to what's going on inside. I got this one in 2011.
The Commander-in-Chief Prophecy?
Well, guys, we did it.
From sea to shining sea. Well, Chapo here. It's your middle of the week episode, and we are here today to talk about. We watched another film for you. This time we have taken. We did the Glenn Beck Christmas sweater movie, and we decided to do something of a more recent vintage that takes us deep inside the dog brains of the American evangelical. And their new guy, Donald Trump.
We've done a lot of these movies, and we're always kind of hysterical at the end of it. Like that, what we just saw is just got to be the dumbest fucking thing. And we think that after every movie. This time, I mean, I have... Felix said it best when he said, this is like if you made a movie out of a dog's imagination.
Yeah, there's just like the wind blowing in your hair. You go to the kitchen. There's like a little like corner of a loaf of bread you can eat. You see all the faces you recognize. You hear a sound that like reminds you of your mom walking through the front door. It's just like it's a movie. Like when you ever have a dog that like it sort of like stands on its hind legs and looks out the window, and you go like, "What's he thinking?" It's this movie.
The movie we're in question, this came out in 2018. It is called The Trump Prophecy, and it is based on the absolutely true story of the prophecies given to a retired firefighter who in 2011 was given a message by God that Donald Trump is the man to be our president in these troubled times.
And he told everyone about it after Trump became president.
Yeah, that's also true. But no, I mean, like the people who are vouching for him are, of course, his doctor and his wife. We'll get into that later. I'm just going to read the description here. It says, "The Trump prophecy witnessed the incredible true story of one man's personal journey to healing that led an international prayer movement. The Trump prophecy is a gripping drama that delivers an inspirational message, if hope and patriotism." That is an actual typo.
God, somebody read this book and said, that's brilliant. I want to put money up so that we can bring this to the big screen. It's that easy to be like Norm Macdonald in that SNL skit on the Christian Jeopardy and just say, oh, yeah, Trump predicted that. Yep. Talks to me.
This is based on a book called The Trump Prophecies, the astonishing true story of the man who saw tomorrow and what he says is coming next. In November 2016, the world witnessed the impossible. Nearly every household in America tuned in to the electoral feeds, and every update pointed to a loss for the Republican Party. They were watching the live stream of our live show.
I want to be in one of these movies, like just us on stage tugging our collars while like just some fucking dipshit is hooting with his wife.
But when that map of states flipped red in the final hour, there were a select few who weren't surprised. They had always known Trump was going to win. He was chosen for such a time as this. The prophecy had said so. The prophet, this reserved man of God, was retired firefighter Mark Taylor. The word given by the Holy Spirit was delivered on April 28th, 2011, in the middle of the most debilitating sickness a man could ever experience, diarrhea. He was having diarrhea. When the prophecy later fell into the hands of New York Times bestsellers Don and Mary Colbert, God used this new team of passionate individuals to lead the nation into a fervent prayer chain that would accomplish one of the most incredible miracles our country has ever seen. And this is the film adaptation. This is not a documentary. This is a made to be a feature film, a feature style motion picture with actors portraying Mark Taylor and Don and Mary Colbert. And the story of how, again, an unassuming retired firefighter suffering from PTSD was given a message from God that Donald Trump was destined to be our 45th president. Okay, so my big takeaway from now having just watched 90 minutes, 2 hours of this movie is President Xi must take over America. China must take over America. I realize that I will probably be killed in that, but I will be sent to a re-education camp or just die in the first wave as they take over New York City. That's fine. But we need to treat evangelical Christians in America like China treats Falun Gong members.
Don't get yourself
no Caparino. I know that's controversial, but I think they have the right idea, maybe the wrong group of people.
Well, hang on, Will. I think you could be a Mandarin. I think you probably do well on the tests. You could have be some sort of regional bureaucrat.
I mean, that'd be great with me.
That's how the Menaker family story continues. And then fucking 80 years from now, when your great grandkids have a podcast in, New China, they're like, oh, look, their dad took the Mandarin test. He was a turncoat. And just it continues in the family. But I mean, I guess we have to talk a little bit about the actual narrative of this movie. Which
there's not much.
Okay, so it's about a guy who witnesses one fire in his 2 decades of firefighting, and the first 10 minutes of this movie contain about 5 scenes of crying from this guy and his friends.
I have to say, the aesthetic of this movie was incredibly sort of minimalist cinema. In that, almost like 2001, the first 10 to 15 minutes, there are absolutely no dialogue whatsoever. And then even after that, there are long stretches of the movie of just a man staring at a digital alarm clock with no sound or words at all.
This was a Dog Me 95 movie.
Yeah,
and,
it's the first 5 minutes of the movie are just silent footage of fire trucks going by, like in Manos, The Hands of Fate.
So this guy, our hero, the guy who's the Trump prophecy, he just can't sleep because he keeps dreaming about a fire. And, you would say you picked the wrong job, buddy. But wouldn't you know it, he's going to retire. And there are 2 scenes of him having the exact same conversation with the fire chief about retiring. And they both cry during it. And I have to say, these guys are the biggest fucking pussies in the world. This guy is quitting his fucking job as a firefighter in a small town that experiences a 1 alarm fire every 15 years, and they're just fucking weeping. They're acting like they're in Delta Force.
Yeah, the chief tries to dissuade him from leaving, saying, if you stay another 5 years, your pension is fully vested. And I was like, no.
He's
I'm
I'm
out of the game.
We live in Bedford, Missouri. My house is $47.
So actually, I just want to go back to the very beginning and the opening credits. The first words that are spoken in this movie are just again, it's like you see fire and their credits are rolling. You're not looking at anything but fire and executive produced by the Liberty University Cinematic Arts Center. And then you just hear a disembodied voice say, as Benjamin Netanyahu is to Israel, so too is this man to the United States of America. Then we cut to, it's in, a small town in a meth den or something. A junkie drops their Zippo and causes a fire in a 2-story suburban house. And then our main character, Mark Taylor, the prophet, is, springs out of bed in the firehouse where they all sleep in bunk bed, like race car bunk beds. And he has he's fallen asleep with the Bible on his chest, and he springs out of bed. The Bible hits the floor. And then he goes to encounter this a traumatic fire that, as Felix said, a 1 alarm fire that again, he's been a firefighter for 20 years. This is the first burning building he's gone into, and he completely loses his shit.
This guy, as a fire survivor myself.
Yeah, you can say it.
Yeah, I have a little trouble sleeping, but my nightmares are more I have this horrible nightmare where I have a small dick where it's only 8 inches. And everyone laughs at me. Or, I'm not a New York Times bestseller. I've never written a documentary. Or I've never made the Champions Division of Fortnite. And not some bitch-ass dream about a fire. But this guy can't stop having them. He can't stop having them. And the most offensive thing about these home scenes, he sleeps in what I could best characterize as smaller than a twin bed with his long-suffering wife. And all he does is toss and turn and then go to his smaller bed. And every night, his poor wife is like, oh, no, honey, you're having the fire nightmare again. And it's like, this is the most patient wife in the world.
It's clear they have a sexless and childless marriage. So it's I don't even know what's going on I mean,
I don't even. They're like roommates, basically.
Yeah.
They're roommates who sleep in the same bed.
and like, okay, so he experiences one fire in his 2-decade career of being a firefighter, completely loses his shit, and is like, I'm taking 4 months off. I'm taking up all my sick leave that I've banked. I'm taking 4 months off, and then I'm retiring January 1st. And
that
then,
wasn't supposed to be part of the job. You never said there'd be fire involved.
and then also we learned that his long-suffering wife was the fire dispatcher. And she's just like the firehouse secretary. She just calls them. She's like, "Got a fire for you, hun."
Well, that's like, so that's a recurring theme in this movie. I guess this is a thing in Middle America. If you have a job, your wife has to come with you to the job to be like a lower station than you, but work with you on the job. This plays. We'll talk about the doctor later on, but there's a similar scenario that though the doctor's wife is significantly more powerful than him. I would say. But so. He enjoys his retirement, which is they go to the one lake in fucking hog shit, Missouri, and they fish and don't catch anything. They suck. Like, you'd figure people from that part of the country would be better at fishing. They don't accomplish a thing. They throw a frisbee at each other. They just literally, this is like a dog directing a movie about people. Again, it's like, oh yeah, they're gonna do that people thing. Like, a dog would literally think, like, when people leave the house without him, they're like, oh, they're going to throw the frisbee without me. This fucking sucks.
Felix is referencing this is actually my favorite part of the movie. During his 4-month break from his traumatic fire encounter, he's like, I need to, spend some quality time with the wife. And it's just like they go to the park, throw a frisbee around, then ride a Ferris wheel together, and they're very happy, but he still keeps having PTSD nightmares about a fire.
Well, it's no longer a fire, it becomes a demon.
Okay. His nightmare is the fire is given flesh. And literally, like, he's lying in bed with sleep paralysis, thinking that the rafters of his bedroom are on fire, and then like the fire like forms into like an Obama-looking demon. It's like, let me be clear. If you like your house, it's gonna burn down.
Nice wall. Let's put some Qurans in that bookshelf.
You didn't put that out.
Another element of his retirement is that he's going to spend all his time rehabbing his father's boat. And there's one scene where he's like, it's all like broken down and shitty, and he's got to like, repaint it and, just get a new engine, new outboard motor or whatever. And on his father's boat, his fishing boat, is a Reagan Bush 84 bumper sticker. And I just love the idea of putting a bumper sticker on a boat.
Like, you might as well put a confession to a crime on the back of the boat. No one's ever going to see that.
I can't stress this enough that the first 45 minutes of this film, all that happens is he quits his job and he plays frisbee with his wife and he has dreams. And these 3 scenes just recur over and over again.
We described, the first 45 minutes of the movie. You got it exactly right, Felix. You described, or Virgil, you said it's like if someone tried to film or make it a film adaptation of a John Kasich rambling anecdote about why did my dad have a boat? Some people have boats, son.
There's this baffling scene where he's looking at old photographs of his dad while he's on the boat, and then we see what's going on in his head, and it's just an old man with a young girl, like a child, on the boat. And was he supposed to be the young girl in this story? Like, that's a sepia tone John Kasich, holes in the brain.
Yeah. My dad had a boat, and he'd always take my sister out. And later we found out, he wasn't even taking the boat around. He was just putting it in the back of the trailer hitch and driving around town. And I said, well, first of all, I don't know why you didn't take the boat out on the lake, but how come you never took me? And then my mom pulled me aside and said, John, your sister's never been on a boat either. So what's the big deal? And I think all of us were looking at our neighbors saying, hey, he's got what I don't have. We got to start thinking like that. I go to, I love it here. I went to your lake. Me and my wife, every time we see a lake, we got to throw the frisbee around. We got to throw the frisbee at each other. And we got a little great. We went on that Ferris wheel, and I didn't even want to come down. My wife had to get me up. I wanted to stay at the top. I could just, I swear to God, I could sleep at the top of a Ferris wheel. I've done it before. I did it in New Hampshire last time. And, oh boy, my campaign was mad at me. But, the point is, there are places in America that don't have lakes, and there are Frisbees just sitting around collecting dust. And it's the saddest damn thing I've ever seen in my life. Governor Kasich, the question was about abortion.
So yeah, so far it's been a story about the world's most bitch ass firefighter who suffers brutal PTSD from fighting one fire, who goes home to sleep in a tiny bed in a sexless marriage with his wife, the fire dispatcher. And then there are numerous scenes that are just repeated. It's sort of existential. They repeat the same scene of him talking to the fire chief about his pension. And there are multiple scenes of him taking framed pictures off a wall and putting them into a box. But he's like, he retired from being a firefighter, and there's a scene of him in his house taking down all the photos of him being a firefighter and putting them in a box because I guess like he can't look at them now or something.
There's
Also, and then also keep in mind that like while this is happening, there's no dialogue or even sound at some point.
So he's troubled by these dreams, and he talks to his wife about them. And his wife says, "Honey, have you considered praying?" And this is a trope you see in all of these movies where the wife is just very wise and says, "Have you heard of the Bible?" Which makes no sense because you see him read the Bible in the first fucking scene,